Recorded live in Balcatta, Western Australia, the Hoon capital of the world. This is Talkin' Power.
Gap is what happens when you hold to the floor and crush the man next to you. There's space in between your back bumper and your front bumper. We in the South we refer to it as the gap band.
Well, I think Formula One is for grown-ups.
So, what about the sideways? You've got a race in your own lane. Now he's on the grass, he brings it back. That's a great driving there.
Torque and Power, your motoring and motorsport podcast.
All right, welcome to episode 23 of the Talk and Power podcast. I'm Nick DeChembry and I am here with royalty.
I don't know about that.
I am here with Luke Newhoff. Now, for those listeners that are not familiar with Luke, let's just give a bit of a rundown of Luke and what you've done in the past. You still are the editor and co-founder of Drag News magazine. You were previously the marketing and communications manager at the Perth Motorplex, media manager of Andra, and journalist and media monitor previous to that. So, and in the meantime, you've been running wadragracing.com. I know you did a lot of work for Street Machine, which I want to talk about a bit later because there was a heap there. And the West Australian, you're still doing that, and also for Jordan as well, and Forge magazine. That's probably just the tip of the iceberg, I guess.
Yeah, staying busy. That's the key when you're a freelancer. So as much as I can take on, I take on.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Look, I mean, I've known you for a long time, but some of our listeners probably may not. So just give us a brief rundown of yourself and your family and how you've come from drag racing over the years.
Well, I guess I was born into the sport. My parents have raced for a long time. My dad first, and then my mother as well. Mm-hmm. So I grew up around Ravenswood, watching them race motorbikes, and then of course the transition to Perth Motorplex.
Yeah, okay.
And that's I guess the transition to Perth Motorplex, as you know, kind of came around the same time as the internet was starting to take off, I guess. So yeah, would you believe I started writing event reports for the NHRA drag racing video game.
Yeah, okay.
And then the track manager at the time, Peter Pike, asked if I'd be interested in helping out with the Dragster Australia reports for the real racing at the Motorplex.
Okay.
And then it all sort of just rolled on from there. I think in year 11 digital media class, I put together a WA drag racing website.
Yep.
And that's how that all started, and everything's just sort of grown from there.
I mean, that was 18, we're talking 18 odd years ago, but I do remember your work fondly back then as well. I know you were a lot younger then, and well, so was I guess, but but it was even for the time, it was pretty cutting edge what you were doing back then, and I know a lot of people were using you, and you were also, you were also the photographer at the track as well, not long after that, I would.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess the photography was just a fun sort of side aspect of running the website. It lets you get trackside, it lets you get the best seat in the house, and it really is. You're spoilt when you get to be within meters of these cars roaring past you, and it's just such an exciting sport. And to see it up close is something, as a 16-year-old kid was amazing, and even today it still amazes me when I'm standing next to a Top Fuel dragster that launches, and it literally shakes your brain around and shakes the snot out of your nose. It's that explosive when they launch, and that's the addictive thing about drag racing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's certainly the case. I can vouch for that. I don't get up as close as what you do, but it's the work that you've done and some of the photos you've done are amazing over the years. But I want to talk a bit about your photography and your video a bit later on when we talk about your Street Machine work, which was really great. I mean, Simon and I have been speaking about that in our other podcasts because we were following Drag Week quite intently. But anyway, we'll get to that. So, correct me if I'm wrong, your mother and father, mod and comp bike?
That's right.
Yeah,
so,
that's right.
Yeah, my father competed in modified bike basically throughout the 80s and 90s and into the 2000s and still does today, along with my sister now as well. So all four of us have raced bikes in the family at some stage. So, yeah, it was good when Mum got back into it as well. She got back into it in the late 90s, and there was a time when both Mum and Dad were competing alongside, and probably the highlight of that was when, I think it might have been 2003, 2004, when Dad won the competition bike state championship and Mum won the modified bike state championship.
Yeah, okay.
So that was a pretty cool season for the family.
Yeah, okay. No, that's excellent. No, that's good. You went on to do. I might have the order wrong here. So I distinctly remember you racing in modified and super street, or was it the other way around? You went super street and then modified.
I'm trying to think which way around it was. I had the Toyota Sora for a while there. So I got involved racing in the fast racing series. Which I think was a great thing for the track, and I do hope that they bring it back one day.
Yep.
So I ran in the Sport Compact class there and did pretty well. And then I think I ran the dragster after that. So Crystal Eccleston, she was pregnant at the time.
Yep.
They were looking for somebody who wanted to drive the dragster, and we were friends with them, and they just asked, do you want to have a drive? And you don't have to think too long about that kind of decision.
No.
So... yeah, we hopped in the rail for a season, and that was good fun too.
Yep.
And then a few seasons after that, that's when I got onto the motorbike and learnt the fun of two wheels.
Yeah, okay, all right. That's right, I couldn't remember who it was. So it was Tony you were racing for. Tony.
That's right.
Yeah,
yep.
Okay, great guy, Tony. Good family. Okay, well, so moving along, you started out WA drag racing, as we spoke about. That's morphed over the years. Well, no, it still exists, WA drag racing?
It still exists, yeah. I've got wadragracing.com.au now, and about a year or two ago, I started putting on some of the older content, and I've kind of gone off that again. I do need to get back into the habit of putting all the older content back on, but I did go digging for a lot of the older photos, a lot of the older reports, which you can still find on the internet in places. So I think it's valuable for the sport. I guess drag racing, particularly in Australia, hasn't recorded its history particularly well at times. Yeah. So I think when we've got that information there, the more we can do to keep that around, the better. So yeah, WA drag racing does still exist in a form. And that really was the start of it. And that was at a time when I think, I don't know, it was got sort of a homebrew feel to a lot of those websites. You had WA Drag Racing, you had the Engine Room, you had Drag Mania, you had Cackling Pipes, and there were all these little websites at the time around the country, all covering the racing, which was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool. It's interesting you bring that up. I didn't put it in the notes, but I wanted to talk about that. Grant Stevens, Cackling Pipes, had a forum back in the day. And that was huge. I think that had a lot of interaction for its time. I reckon it probably had more interaction back then than anything we have now, to be honest, even more than Facebook. I know that the forums that those guys were running, it was Matt as well, Matt Cernzi.
That's right, yep.
Yeah. They all had this forum, the Cackling Pipes forum, which was a good place for content and a good... You got a lot of different views and a lot of different opinions back in the day. So, no, I distinctly remember that. It was good times, they were.
Yeah, it was the pre-sort of Facebook era. And every website had a forum as well where you could go and find opinions and people having fun and people were being passionate. Yeah. And I think one of the issues today with Facebook is that everybody gets on there and has their piece, but they'll belt it out very quickly in just a few words. Whereas on forums, I think people spent a bit more time crafting their posts and a bit more time thinking about what they were saying. So the information you often got on forums was of a pretty high quality versus some of the comments you see on Facebook these days.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I agree with you there, 100%. So you... After all this, you went on to Andra, and you were there for... How long were you at Andra for?
I was at Andra for 2 years.
Yeah, okay. Yep. So you were working under Mel at that time?
I worked under Greg Humphreys first off, and then Rob Sharp, who was an interim CEO there, and then Mal Bully.
Yeah, okay. All right. So you was the media manager at the time and at Andra. So what sort of things were you doing there at the time?
So at the time, that was basically doing all the PR side of things, writing their media releases, keeping the website up to date, trying to get any coverage for the sport that was possible at the time, looking after social media channels, which at that time, again, was sort of just taking off, and Facebook was really starting to gather steam around that time. Yeah. Basically seeing that the sport was presented in a positive light, organising displays and things like that. And I think we did kick a few goals there at the time. Unfortunately, it came before a bit of a you know, a lull for Andrew and all the current dramas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we won't get into that tonight. We'll
I'm
leave
glad.
that. We'll leave that for better people than us. Simon and I have spoken about it. We're not going to change anything here, so we'll leave that right alone. You then went on to the Motorplex. You were working with, was it Ray at the time? Or
So I've done a lot of freelance stuff for the Motorplex,
Yeah.
helped them out with press releases and things like that over the years. So I was actually in the USA at the time when I saw the job come up for the
Yeah.
marketing and communications manager there, and I think it was a 9-month contract at the time, which suited me perfectly. So yeah, jumped in there with the whole transition from the Milosevic family running the complex to Venues West.
Yep.
So that was an interesting time and learned a lot and did a lot and yeah, good fun.
Yeah, no, it's excellent. I remember you were there. It was quite a few years you did that for. Was it 2 or 3?
At the Motorplex?
Yeah.
Just 9 months, would you
9
believe?
months?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. It was only
Alright.
a short-term contract. Finished up about July last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No, excellent. We'll move on to, before we get on to Drag Week, let's just bit of a chat about yourself, what you're up to in these days. As you're living in the US now, and you've gotten engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So life for yourself, I guess, is, you know, you're going to be living in the US. So you're still doing freelance work over there as well?
Well, basically, yeah. At the moment, I'm doing a lot of freelance work from Australia still, so doing magazines, a bit of web design and things like that.
Yep.
Until, I get married in the US, obviously you can't work over there or do anything like that. So at the moment,
okay.
it's just, managing some local work and
Yeah, okay.
and just taking the opportunity to go and see a few drag racing events over there and enjoying that side of it.
While we're talking about drag racing events over there, one of my favourite events, and Simon and I talk about it, we have to get over there one day. You went to, was it Lights Out or No Mercy? I can't remember which one.
I think it was Lights Out. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I want to say Lights Out. It might have been No Mercy. I do get them mixed up. One's coming up next week, and then I think
Lights Out's
that
next
might be
week.
Lights Out next week. So it must have been No Mercy
Yeah,
because that's
okay.
the one in the second half of the year.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. Did you meet the duck?
I didn't know. But
Okay.
He does seem quite the character on social media channels, but yeah, I think he was tucked away up in the tower for the
right,
time.
okay.
So yeah.
We actually want to get him on the show, but I don't know if we can beep. If we actually get any content out of him, it would be just one long beep. We've covered the duck over since we started this podcast on and off, and I think what he does is great. What was that like then, No Mercy? Where do you think the radial movement is going in the world?
Well, I think it's like drag racing is great for its variety.
Yep.
A lot of people will tell you, oh, drag racing's dying, drag racing's doing this, drag racing's doing that. But what happens is that all these all these new categories pop up. So we saw it with Outlaw 10.5 a few years ago, and Outlaw 10.5 blew up, and then in a way it's sort of wilted now because now we've got the radial racing, which has really taken off, and that's a big thing. And I can tell why the crowds like it, because it's unpredictable. The cars do wild things. I mean, you compare a radial tyre car to an NHRA Pro Stock car. The radial tyre car, you don't know what it's going to do. It could be on the back wheels. It could blow the tyres off. They're spraying nitrous on the line, or they're boosting down the track. And compared to the predictability of an NHRA Pro Stock car, I can see why the fans are flocking to the radial cars.
Yeah, they're getting huge numbers there. I mean, 55. What was the crowd like when you went? I heard it's been about 55, 60,000 there.
The crowd wasn't particularly big on the day I was there.
Yeah, okay.
So I think at those races, they tend to have one big night, like a Saturday night or a Friday night, where they'll pack the place. And certainly, I think Lights Out is the bigger one of the two.
Yeah, okay.
No Mercy tends to dabble with the weather a little bit more, so I'm not sure if it gets quite as many people from across the country. Whereas at this time of year, they're virtually guaranteed a dry racetrack, so you'll pack the place.
Yeah, okay. All right, very good. Anyway, I want to touch on, as I said, Simon and I covered on the podcast as best we could Drag Week, where we were following. We got a lot of info from actually your videos that you're posting on YouTube for Street Machine through Scotty and Mark and Simon.
That's right.
Yeah, Simon. So you tell us a bit about that, and you were literally cutting video in the back of Mark's car from track to track at night time in the middle of the night. Is that correct?
That's right. I mean, the whole of Drag Week and leading up to Drag Week, because we had a week going from Las Vegas to Illinois in advance of Drag Week. It was just epic. When Street Machine asked if I'd be interested in just going along for the ride with Mark and his Val across the country, I didn't have to think about it too long. I mean, that's a cool experience. I mean, people would pay to do that. You know,
Yeah, that's right.
Let alone just being asked to go along for the ride, which was
Yeah.
really awesome.
No, good. Now, we watched the video from here. So you met up with Mark in Vegas.
That's right,
And
yeah.
you drove to Illinois, and I think you stopped along the way, did some video at a wrecking yard. Is that correct?
Yeah, we stopped at a whole bunch of places.
Yep.
So when I arrived in Las Vegas, the Val was sitting in Chris's garage in Vegas. Chris was a really cool guy. He met Mark and Steve at a Home Depot. They were trying to find some I think some insulation, some shielding to try and keep the heat down in the cabin because the thing was overheating so bad.
Yep.
So yeah, they were fixing it in Vegas. We went through all kinds of drama just trying to get the thing running and not overheating. There was about 2 days in Vegas, and then finally we were able to get out of town and then do bits of Route 66, which was really neat.
Yep.
And yeah, we saw I think it's Porky's Wrecking Yard. That was out in I can't remember the state, somewhere in the back of Kansas, I think.
I watched it last night, but I can't remember myself. But it was some amazing footage you got there from the drone and whatnot.
It's amazing, like the amount of old metal over there that you can still find. I mean, if that sort of yard existed in Australia, people would be going crazy for it. And you can still find it in the US. That is the thing, that there are these places that exist. You can still, I mean, there's just rows of 57 Chevs and rows of basically any classic muscle car you can name, you can find there. And you can still find the bits for them. And, you know, it's... Mark talked about how it's getting harder to find a lot of this stuff, but if you know where to look, it's still out there for sure.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yep. So you've gone out that way. Then, so for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, I urge you to get onto the Street Machine YouTube page and follow them, and it'll come up Drag Week 2017. And you've cut it over four episodes or 5 episodes?
It was 5 episodes for Drag Week, plus the previews when we were going across the country, which was, that was pretty mad. We were we were shooting things during the day, and then in the afternoon I'm sitting in the back of a roll-caged 9-second Valiant, tapping away on a MacBook trying to edit video to get it uploaded that night as we're barreling across the deserts of America, which was pretty cool. Cool experience.
I can imagine. I mean, Simon's giving me the heebie-jeebies at the moment because I've taken a little while to edit our next Camry episode, but that's been 3 weeks, so there you go. So tell us a bit about Drag Week then. Is it really, I mean, it's something that I guess as many Aussies, we look, I know we have the drag challenge over here, but it's something that I think a lot of Australians strive to get to. Is it really that good then?
It was really that good.
Yeah, okay.
I'm big across all drag racing. I don't necessarily focus on, you know, just street cars or just nitro cars or just junior dragsters. It's everything. But as a drag racing fan, it was an unreal experience and better than I expected.
Yeah, okay.
It had a very different atmosphere to any other drag racing event I've been to. I thought to myself, I've never been to a land speed racing kind of event, but I thought it might have that sort of similar feel because there's not so much competition between all the drivers as there is a kind of a camaraderie.
Yeah, okay.
So everybody has their own personal goals that they want to achieve, and everybody else is keen to see them achieve those goals. So they'll help them if they're broken down on the road, or they'll help them get to the next stop, or tell them where to go. It's just that common spirit as part of Drag Week was really amazing. Like I say, a really different atmosphere to the event, and a very fun one.
Look, a couple of Australians doing it, in particular some West Aussies that do it as well. John Ferroni, as we know, does it. Craig as well, Craig Moore.
Yep.
Is there any other West Aussies that I've missed there, or is that?
Those were the two doing it this year. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a couple of other Australians doing it as well. Is I can't remember their names.
We had Brian in the Tirana. We had Mark in the Val, obviously. I'm just trying to think back now. We had the Jamie in the Falcon Ute.
And of course Harry as well. We can't forget Harry.
Of course, yeah. No, nobody can forget Harry.
No.
And I'm sure there's one more. Richie Crampton.
Yeah, that's right.
In the Chev.
Yeah. No, it's well publicised here in Australia, and it's good to see Australians doing it, and also some West Aussies doing really well. I know John Ferroni's done quite well, and he's done it. I think it's his 3rd or 4th year, John.
He has a huge commitment to that event, and he doesn't seem to have the best of luck. There's always something little that gets him. But I think the year that luck goes his way, it's going to be good for him because
Yeah.
the car is one of the quickest cars out there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it is seriously an impressive piece of engineering, and to see. When you see a car with WA number plates out in the US, that's a pretty cool thing to see.
It is. It would be cool. I can imagine that actually. Even when I see it on video with all these US cars around it, you feel yeah, that guy's a good Perth boy.
Absolutely.
All right. I don't know. I mean, the future of I've got here. Just want to have a quick chat about the future of drag racing, where you see it going over the next, I guess, 5 years and 10 years, or what are your thoughts on that? Where we're heading? Simon and I strongly believe this is our belief. We think that an electric class needs to be looked at ASAP. What are you thinking? Where we're going from here?
Well, absolutely, and I think there's going to be a whole generation of people who are going to grow up on electric cars and who are going to like the fact that you can do different things. It might not be playing with a carburetor. It might not be playing with fuel management. It might be, tweaking. I don't really know with electric cars, tweaking some other aspect of it. And that's what they're going to enjoy. The sound. People say, well, the sound. I don't like the sound of them. There are going to be people who enjoy the sound of an electric car going down the track.
Yeah.
One of the great things about drag racing is the sheer amount of variety it has. And just because electric cars exist doesn't mean nitro cars don't have to exist.
Yeah.
You can choose what you want to what you want to enjoy. For me, when I think of electric cars, I start to think of the possibilities. Well, what's the biggest challenge that often faces drag strips at the moment? It's people moving in close and complaining about the noise.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, if you've got a form of motorsport that doesn't make a hell of a lot of noise, that opens up some possibilities. So let's say Adelaide, where you've got the Clipsal circuit there in the parklands right in the middle of the city. What's to stop you running an 8th mile electric drag race there every weekend? It's not going to bother anybody.
Yeah.
And it's going to be right in the middle of the action. So I think we have to think a little bit outside the square and realise just because, like I say, just because one thing exists, electric drag racing, doesn't mean all these other things go away.
Yeah.
We can make space for everybody in the sport, and that's how the sport survives and thrives. If we were still racing the same things we were racing 20, 30 years ago, we wouldn't have the same interest in the sport that we have now. And drag racing does have a lot of interest in it still. It might have splintered into a lot of sort of niche areas now, but I think social media has probably benefited drag racing in the large because social media is all about short attention spans, and you got a motorsport where it's all over in 5 or 6 seconds. Perfect for that sort of medium.
Yeah, no, that was very interesting. It was one of the things Simon said. Ask him where he thinks the future's going. So there you go, Simon.
The future is variety.
Anyway, look, we'll get back to a bit about yourself a little bit later on. We'll cover off on the 400 Thunder. It's coming up. The next round will be, unfortunately, clashes with Race Wars. But anyway, that's another story. But the long weekend of March, we've got Race Wars. We've got the Western Nationals here in Perth. Team Bray have confirmed that Frankie Taylor's coming. I think if the Motorplex and 400 Thunder get on board with that and do that as a bit of a promotion, I think that's worth quite a few thousand people through the gates, having someone like Frankie Taylor come into our track.
I think so. It's been a long time since we've had a racer from the US, other than the guys who race the Jet Dragsters. It's been a while since we've had a US racer actually in competition.
Yep.
I'm just actually trying to think of who the last one might have been. But having Frankie here is going to be look, you got Frankie here for a start in the Team Bray car. You also got Paul Moit coming over for the first time in his Pro Slammer. Scotty McLean coming over, all taking on John Zapier, who we know the hometown loves. But in terms of, I don't think I've been this excited for a Pro Slammer race at Perth Motorplex for a lot of years. But this is going to be like the biggest challenge I think Zapier has faced at his home track for a while.
Oh, no doubt.
So I think this is one that people need to get out to and see.
Yeah.
And if you love Pro Slammer racing, like this is going to be an all-timer.
9-point split between the two of them, Paul Moyet and John Zapier. And I know we had John on here probably 2 months ago now. And I know John, he's very well respected, but he's he's got a massive target on his back now, and these guys are really gunning for him. Scotty's run 70s quite easily now.
Well, he's run 563, which is
has he gone
within,
63?
within 300s.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so he's got a massive target on his back now, and these guys have really backed up what the sort of numbers that they can run. So it will be an exciting meet. I can't wait, actually. I'm really looking forward to it, and I'm just hoping I can get back from Race Wars in time to see the finals of this.
Yeah, it is a shame that the dates clash. I would love to see Race Wars, but I've got commitments at the Western Nationals.
Yeah.
But Race Wars has been one of those events I've seen the coverage of in past years and gone, mate, could I get to both? Is there a way I could do both? Yeah, it makes me think.
No, they do a great job, but Western National's been around a very long time, and we'll endeavour to get there as quickly as we'll endeavour to get there. Needless the same. You went in town for motivation, were you?
I wasn't. I just missed it.
Yeah, okay. Great meet, to be honest. I must be frank. I tried contacting Ray. I don't know if the numbers were down by design or if they were just down. I really couldn't tell you, but I felt that was actually better having the numbers down. They've reduced the numbers quite significantly, so the actual car show sort of ended, I think, 6th or 7th alley. There was no cars beyond that, which I thought was really great. Mm-hmm. It condensed the show quite well, and I think the level of cars was a lot better, a lot higher.
I know that's one thing that the Motorplex management has been aiming for in recent motivations, and that's to increase the quality at the expense of the quantity of cars. So there was a time where Motivation was getting, I think, like 600 or 700 entries, and they were pitting them, in the middle of the speedway and all up around the back of the oval there. And they were basically accepting anything with 4 wheels. So that philosophy has changed a little bit now. So there's more of an emphasis on quality.
Yeah.
One of the complaints that people often have is, it's all Commodores, it's all this, it's all that. I think that has changed a lot in the last couple of years. Some people still make that complaint, but I think it's a little bit of confirmation bias. They're just seeing a Commodore and thinking, it's all Commodores. But no, actually the quality is quite high. So it depends what kind of show you're after, I guess. And there's different kind of shows, and if quality is your thing, then I think they're heading in the right direction with the cars that they're choosing to have in there.
No, definitely. There weren't many Commodores at all, and some of the Commodores that were there, I mean, we if we want to talk about a Matt James, I mean, that's not just an ordinary Commodore, that thing. So
that's right, man. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of Commodores because they're cheap to pick up and they're easy to modify, and they are the easiest car to get out there and hot rod if you want it to. So they're a part of the modification landscape in Australia. So of course we're going to see a lot of that used as a platform in car shows.
It was good to see Spencer Jarrett. He won Grand Champion. Now Spencer's been going to motivation for some time in that blown VH. And I think he's tweaked it over the years to get himself into a position to win Grand Champion. So it was really good to see that he'd won that. That car's been around for a while, and I'm not a Commodore man myself, but I do like that, especially the oldest series of Commodores, the VH. Really good to see him get up and win. I was quite happy about that. The Elite, the top judge was John Hutchins, his XK Falcon Ute. That's a black Falcon Ute, beautiful car. Best street machine driven was Darren Rowe, his 57 Chev, lovely car. And I think People's Choice Award definitely got it right, these guys. Everyone that went and voted got it right. This car is amazing. It's an XY Falcon Ute, Natasha McMahon, Fat XY, great car, beautiful car. There's pictures of it on our Talk and Power Facebook page. If you go to the Talk and Power Facebook page, there's a number of photos. There's, I think, 40 odd photos of some of the cars. That's actually one of them. So People's Choice.
Go check it out.
yeah, got it right. Burnout comp. Well, it was really no surprise. Matt came from Summer Nats, getting first and second in 2 different cars. So for him to come away with first and third at Motivation, hats off to him. I think what he's done in the Burnout comp world is amazing.
I think he's finally figured it out now. There was a time where I think his burnouts were extremely popular with the fans. It's a very violent form of burnout. It was fire and flames, and unfortunately, like, we forget sometimes burnout is got a judge criteria that they're getting scored on and things like that. So you can have a skid that looks fantastic in video and fantastic when you're there, but maybe it doesn't quite tick all the boxes judging wise. Whereas I think he's now figured that out, like he's limited the fires and that sort of thing. And now he's obviously worked it out because he's placed the top 2 positions at Summernats and now 2 in the top 3 at Motivation. Yeah. So he's on quite the hot streak at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Orchard as well, and his ballistic VL, that was a great burnout too. But I think, you know, Matt. Hats off to Matt, and hats off to all the guys in the top 10 of the burnouts. I think they're really hard to judge when they're that good. You know.
Oh, the burnout scene has just stepped up to another level right now. You know, I think we you know, talking about one of the things I've seen over the years as a challenge to drag racing is the growth of the burnout scene. But how cool is it that we have this completely unique motorsport to the Australian scene now? That it's just drawing in new competitors, it's drawing in fans, it's drawing in young competitors, importantly. So I think there's a lot of myths around that young people aren't into cars and all this, but what we're seeing is actually a very young competitor base coming into that sport. It's accessible. You can go and buy a 6-cylinder Commodore for barely anything and have a crack at it. It's got very low barriers to entry, but then you can go all the way up to the professional level that we see Matt James and guys like that doing.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen some of these cars, I urge you to get up close and have a look at them, especially Matt's and
George Saparovich.
Yeah, George's. You should see the fab work in that car. They make them look factory, like, yeah, these are just factory Commodore, the engine bay. They're not, but I'll tell you what, they do a good job of making them look. All the fab work, the firewall, and what they do there is they've tried to keep the factory, you know, press in as much as they can. Awesome work.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
I spoke to George in the week before Motivation, and the motor he's actually using in that car is out of the double C gasser he used to run. So you talk about the level of horsepower some of these guys are now putting into their cars. It's pretty unreal, and you've got to keep that thing alive for a minute, for 90 seconds. As long as you can to get those tyres off and impress the judges. So it's a pretty serious level of tuning and engineering that's going into these cars, by all means.
Yeah. All right. I need to do an update on the Camry. So, in case you don't know, Luke, I mean, I think I mentioned it before, but Simon and myself went out, and it was more in line with, I don't know if you were aware that Scotty built a Falcon taxi.
The turbo taxi.
And we felt, you know, that he took that on as, like, you know, sort of the people's car, or that's the Australian taxi. We felt that the Camry was more fitting as a taxi in Australia. So we went out and built this 2000 Camry. Our listeners wouldn't know. We actually took it to the track a couple of Wednesday nights ago. Standard motor, still standard. We haven't touched the motor yet. We got a 12.9 out of it, which we were pretty happy with, actually. So that's still just the standard GT35
that's a
turbo.
good car.
Yeah, it's not bad. We felt, you know, pretty good. He didn't do a burnout either. No burnout. Just staged it and down the track she went. So I'll be posting some video of that up shortly. I haven't quite had time to edit all this video that we've got. We've got a lot of content, as you say, but I haven't just had a chance. But at this stage, it's still standard motor, 3-litre V6 GT35 turbo, so what they use in the XR6, and an intercooler. And Jamie at Shift Kits Australia helped us out with a Mega Squirt ECU. Stewie Bond at WA Suspensions worked out all the suspension for us. That car wouldn't have gone into the 12s without Stewie, I can tell you now. He helped us out a lot, front and rear. Got the car working perfect for what it is. So
it's amazing how many people forget how important suspension is to the overall package. You might think it's just for turning corners, but no, it's all to do with movement of weight in the car and transition of weight in the car to get the best traction. Yeah.
So Stewie, as I said, there's no way we would have got that thing into the 12. And Stewie was really on board with what we were doing. Like, a lot of people said, "What the hell are you doing that for?" Or what are you guys doing? But Stewie was like, "No, let's do it. We'll work that out," and he did. So hats off to Stu and all the crew at WA Suspensions. Also Grant at Performance Turbos as well. Grant helped us out with the turbo too. And as I said, the initial 12.9, that was with a standard GT35, but he's got another GT35 that he's serviced for us. So that's ready to go in once we once we get a baseline out of this car. So thanks to Grant as well. Did you catch the Bathurst 12 hour at all?
I didn't, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah, bar the big crash at the end.
Yeah, no. Look, I mean, I caught bits and pieces of it. I mean, I actually like the sport, and I think it's it's something that probably Australians need to embrace a bit more. The crowd didn't look good. It wasn't a good crowd. I don't know if it was just at the time I was watching, but I mean, I watched for a number of hours during the day, not consecutively, but I just found that the crowd was poorly attended. But look, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it's got room to grow. It's been going for about 12 years, I think, straight. They had a gap for a few years, and before that, it ran for about 8 years. So
I think it has got a fairly large international audience. It's got a lot of manufacturer backing behind it, which is important in getting those dollars into it. So I'm not sure they'd be too concerned if the at event crowd isn't too high. As long as their TV ratings are good, that's probably what works for them.
Yeah. Look, I think a lot of people, I know a few people that I spoke with today and even yesterday, all watched the event, and there were a lot of people asking me, "What's the go? Is this the new Bathurst?" I said, "No. This has always been around. It's just another Bathurst, I guess." But I think we need to prepare ourselves for a changing of the guard at Bathurst, and I think this is the way forward. I really enjoyed it. I was a bit disappointed about the Ferrari Works team not turning up this year, but they won it last year, and I would have thought they'd come back this year. But yeah, I still liked it. This bit disappointed that the race ended the way it ended with a big crash, but I guess that's the way it goes, especially on a timed sort of when you're on a timed race. All right, Luke, where can we find out a bit more about you? We can go to www.lukenewhoff.com.
That's right. That's my poorly maintained personal website right there.
No, I thought that was quite good, actually. I had a good look at that the other night. I thought that was quite good.
I've been meaning to add a few more stories up on there. And, a few experiences.
Yep. www.dragnews.com. That's your magazine. We didn't cover that. That's also a magazine as well.
That's right. Yeah, we run a print magazine. Roughly every 6 weeks. We put that out. Now that is the only one in Australia. We do it on a subscription basis, so it's not in newsagents, but people can go to dragnews.com.au and sign up there, and it just comes in the letterbox every few weeks. And we try and keep the quality up and just try and tell a few of the stories that are out there in Australian drag racing and give the sport the coverage that it deserves.
You do that yourself, don't you? I mean, you basically edit that yourself and send it off to the only thing you don't do is the printing. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah. So that's how we basically keep it viable. Is we had to learn how to do it ourselves. So I had to learn how to lay out a magazine. So we were familiar with writing and editing and photography, but we then had to learn about how do we put a print magazine together? So we just learned along the way and kept it all in house, and and that's how we keep it going. It's still a passion project for us. It's not a huge money spinner, but for us, it's just giving the stories the limelight that we think they need, and it's certainly a source of pride for us putting that magazine out every few weeks.
No, I've seen the electronic version, but I'll make a note and subscribe to that. I need to get onto that.
Appreciate it.
We'll do that. We also need to get, I think, Talking Power behind also Drag News as well, so that way we can work together.
Sounds great.
Each other out. Also, shout out to Matt Price. He is continuing his testing this week in Jerez in Spain. So hopefully it's all going well from what I can see. He's on the R1 Yamaha this year.
Very cool.
Made the switch from Kawasaki, I think, last year, and anyways onto a R1 Yamaha this year. So he came on the show a while ago now, but he's a great guy, and shout out to him. And as he heads off back to Italy this year for more CIV Championship racing,
he's living the dream.
He is living the dream. He's a great guy too. Good guy. Also, shout out to John Zapier as well, as he takes on we'll call it the rest of the world.
John Zapier versus the world. Yeah.
In Pro Slammer, so all the best, John, as you take on the powers that be in Pro Slammer. Race Wars are having an event on the 24th of Feb, which is at Shannon's in Beckenham. We will be co-hosting that with the Race Wars radio guys. So Huggy and Riggs, as they're affectionately known, they'll be there as well. So if you can get down there, I think it starts at 7. If you go to their website, you'll be able to see it. So yeah, it's Race Wars, Kebabs and Cars. That's the week before Race Wars. So it's an introduction to a lot of the competitors. They'll have their cars down there. And it's just a good way of seeing a number of the cars that are going to be participating in Race Wars.
There's some pretty serious hardware out there. I mean, these guys are pushing 200 over 200 mile an hour in 1,000 meters, which is pretty gnarly for what are essentially street cars.
Jamie told us 2 weeks ago on the podcast, he came on the podcast 2 weeks ago and said that there is a guy building a billet Lamborghini engine that's going to pump out like close to 2,000 horsepower.
That's getting serious.
Yeah, I know. It's actually, Simon had a good chuckle about that. I thought, well, he's got a Hemi sitting there that, maybe a little bit more than that. So, yeah, it's amazing what these guys are doing with their cars, especially the Lamborghini platform. So,
well, the technology, particularly with turbocharging and engine management, has just come along so quickly in the last few years. Any gap that there was between sort of supercharging and turbocharging has evaporated, and turbocharging is actually striding ahead now, even in the short sprints of drag racing, let alone in these longer pools, 1,000 meter stuff, the flying mile type stuff in the US as well.
Yeah. So Jordan, I think will be there as well. I know Jordan's hosting Cash Days down at Race Wars as well, so he'll be pretty busy that weekend as well. So Jordan, if you can get down to Albany as well and somehow get back in time for Western Nationals, that'd be great.
I dig the no prep stuff. We need more of the no prep in Western Australia.
Yeah.
I always see Collie Motorplex's drag strip sitting there, and I wonder if we could do a no prep race or something right there. It seems like it would suit it.
I don't know. Is Jim still involved down there? Jim
I don't
Whale?
know, to be honest. Yeah, I've sort of fallen out of touch with who's who in that zoo. But I think as far as I know, the track is still there. It's not a world class surface if you were trying to put a Top Fuel dragster down it, but if you want to run a cool street car event, I reckon that's a great simulation of a road surface. So if you wanted to do a Street Outlaws style deal, a no prep style deal, no times, that'd be an awesome place to do it.
Yeah. That is growing in popularity. I mean, I'm not a huge Street Outlaws fan, but I can see its popularity in that sort of age demographic, that sort of sub 35 age demographic.
It is huge. I think it was the US Nationals 2016 I went to, and they had Big Chief racing there, and he had a longer queue than John Force for autographs. So the drag racing world is not all NHRA in the States now. Those Street Outlaws, guys, they're like the old Nitro Funny Car match races of the 70s and 80s. Now these guys can get booked into small racetracks around the country and pull in big crowds. Because of the profile they have through Discovery Channel.
I think they had 50,000 at Bristol about 6 months ago for a no prep event, which was telecast on as part of their TV show. So it is amazing what they're doing there. It really is. I think they had less numbers for a NASCAR meet. That was on a Wednesday, and I think they had less people turn up. The track, I think, backs onto the drag strip. They had less people at the NASCAR event than what they did at Street Outlaws. So that says something, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
All right, Luke. Well, look, thanks for coming on. Appreciate your time. Well, you're here in Australia for a short period of time before you head off on a holiday and then back to the US. So appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Much appreciated. So, we can catch you at dragnews.com.au, lukenewhoff.com. Anywhere else?
Luke Newhoff Media on Facebook. I occasionally post on there as well. But check out the stuff on dragnews.com.au. We try and keep that as up to date as possible with all the news from Australian drag racing, features, photo galleries, all that sort of thing.
No worries.
Go check it out.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Luke. And also thanks to our sponsors, Shift Kits Australia. Sorry, Jamie, I missed you off that last video. Sorry, which got pointed out to me pretty quickly. WA Suspensions, Benzene Detailing, All Fast Torque Converters, Monster Torque, Performance Turbochargers. Thanks to all those guys for helping us out with the Camry. More video to come with the Camry as well.
Cool, look forward to it.
No worries. All right, Luke, thanks for your time.
Thank you, Nick.
Take care. See ya.
Talk and Power stresses all characters and events on this podcast, even those based on real people, are entirely fictional. All celebrity voices are impersonated poorly. We do not encourage street racing or the use of turbochargers.